Todd and Andrew here in front of Coleman Cottage to taste Septenary's 2015 Coleman Red Blend. We're outside because we still haven't let Andrew inside, or he hasn't found the right door. I don't
Insane.
know what it is.
The joke will end eventually. I don't know. I don't have my hopes up.
But take it away.
Sure. So on to our Coleman blend. So first you may notice, again, we've got the decanter out. So this one, as we've moved along in the progression of our namesake tasting and tour, we're getting a little bit more serious, maybe, but definitely getting into fuller bodied red. So this one, I'd highly recommend grabbing a decanter, throwing that wine in there. So go ahead, don't be gentle. Just let it fall into that decanter. Again, letting it breathe, get some oxygen, really start to open up the aromatics, the fruit notes that are really going to come forward on this one. So pour a little bit in your glass, maybe give it a little swirl, just activate that a little bit more. Get a little bit in your glass. I'll let you pour your own. So to give you a little bit of background on our Coleman Red Blend, this one, honestly, I'll let you in on a little bit of personal bias. I love this one. This one is probably my favorite that's been on our menu. This has been on the menu ever since we've opened. So those of you who have been with us since December of 2017, thank you. We love having you, and we are really excited to be able to continue to share this particular blend with you. And it's been really interesting to watch this wine grow and develop. The Coleman Red Blend as well as the Carriage House 2015, those are two that are just near and dear to my heart because they've been here since the beginning. So I have an inside advantage of having been able to watch these wines grow and develop. So with the 15, it's definitely a little bit fuller, a little more complex. For those of you who have been able to visit us in the past, early on we had the Coleman 15 and the Coleman 2014 on the menu at the same time, and we were able to do these mini vertical tastings for quite some time until our Coleman 2014 blend started to dwindle in inventory. We pulled that off. But as we had that mini vertical tasting, we would always present the two of them side by side to customers, let them go back and forth between the two vintages and pick their favorite. And honestly, I think overall it was probably about a 50-50 split of whether people preferred the 15 or the 14. Personally, I've always been a fan of the 15, so I'm excited to be able to continue to taste and share this with people. So you've given a little time now, so let's get to tasting, let's get to smelling. So throw your nose in there. So yeah, right from the get-go, I think you just get this fuller, more complex aromatics right away. This one, again, Bordeaux-style blend, so a blend of the four main Bordeaux varietals: Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. Nearly equal parts, a bit more Merlot and Cab Franc, which I think those two stand out a little bit more, especially on the front end. I think you get a little more of these smokier notes, maybe a little more of this herbal tone, but you definitely start to get the sense, even right from the beginning, that it has these deeper, darker tones. So again, grab a nice sniff of that. You get a little of this vanilla note from the oak aging. Again, back to oak aging, this one was 18 months, all French oak, and again in our 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 program. So a third new French oak, a third 1 to 2 year old, and a third neutral French oak. So you definitely get some of that oaky influence on the nose. And then on the palate, let's take a little sip here.
Yeah, so what's nice about this wine, for those of you that have been with us a while, you talk about the 14 and the 15 Coleman. The 15 Coleman blend is the first that was from both of our vineyards. So you get some of that earthiness that tends to be driven out of the Essex vineyard. Nice combination with the bright red fruits.
Yep.
So I think all in all was probably about a 50-50 blend of both vineyards, but really kind of nice to see how they both wind their way through.
Yep, exactly. So On the palate, I think that Cab Sauv and PV really start to come through, give it a little more depth, a little more character to it, introduce some of those darker red fruit notes on the palate. Still get a nice kind of smoky expression on the palate as well, kind of following that Merlot. But yeah, overall, this one lately has been, the final wine on the tasting list, so it's a bit fuller, it's more complex. And I typically tell people, this isn't going to be the biggest, heaviest punch on the palate that you've ever had. But to me, this is just complex from beginning to end, starting with those aromatics, a lot going on, really nice, rich structure on the palate, nice long finish to it. It has some really great staying power all the way through. It's consistent, it's complex, just a lot going on. So, when I am suggesting a fuller, heavier blend, I am not afraid to suggest the Coleman 2015 blend to folks. I think it has that depth and structure that people look for in a big, heavy red, but still has a lot of vibrancy and some really, really great expressive notes.
Yeah, and as you're tasting, if you happen to put together your own tasting of what we've done in this Namesake Tasting Tour, go from the Carriage House 15 to this wine, and you'll taste a lot of similarities in terms of the red fruit, but all of a sudden this particular wine becomes so, you get the depth, and you get the balance, and you get the complexity, and you can just sit here and with each taste, you just find a little more in the wine. So it's one of those wines that you can sit and play with for a long time.
Yeah.
I remember early on, Sebastian called this a winemaker's wine because it's just fun to play with, right? A nice wine, and as you think about that complexity, we'll go into naming convention for a minute here. So we struggled with naming our Septenary's Coleman blends. The first idea with 2014 the Coleman blend was, well, maybe what we'll do with the Manor House right across the walk, if you will, we'll have a left bank, right bank, left side of the road, right side of the road. That lasted a year because we didn't really like the full Cab Sauv kind of blend in 15. So instead we came up with this. The complexity of this wine sort of matches this building, if you will. All the entrances, which we've had some fun with, but as you just toured the inside of the building, you've got multiple entrances, multiple layers. It's kind of what this wine's about. It's one of our premium Bordeaux style blends, right there with Manor as far as geography, if you will, but it's that it's the multiple entrances, the multiple flavors, the depth and complexity that most tie to this building.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so then, thinking about, what you're drinking this with, again, a great sipper, one to just sit and enjoy and drink on its own. Otherwise, I might go with like a pasta and red sauce, something a little bit heavier, a little bit more structure to that. What else would you suggest?
Yeah, so, I don't know that I'd go with a big, heavy red meat, but a lot of, maybe pork, nice poultry as well.
Yeah.
Something that's not overwhelming, but something that enables you to sort of get that the many flavors of this wine through without being overwhelmed by the food. I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. We're headed about 100 feet that direction for our next episode, which will be our last episode, as we taste Septenary's Manor 2015 Manor Reserve blend in the final episode. Look forward to seeing you then.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know if you have any questions. Until next time, we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.